Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about some of my bookish buzzwords. Now I'm saying some of my bookish buzzwords because I actually had a really hard time coming up with these. There were like 3 or 4 that I knew immediately, but after that I was like, I don't know. And so maybe at some point I do another video where I talk about some more of my bookish buzzwords. Maybe some of them will have changed by that point. But yeah, these are all I could think of at the minute. Maddie and B did a video like this recently, so that's how I kind of came up with the idea. And so I thought I'd just talk about some of my bookish buzzwords, and I'm gonna try and mention books for these buzzwords that I really enjoyed, but for some of them it's more like I read the buzzword and then I'm like, oh, I put this on my wish list, and then never actually end up picking it up. So I don't have recommendations for all of these, but for a few. And if you have any recommendations for the buzzwords that I mention, please put them down in the comments below, because I need them, okay? Let's get into it. Now my first one is a very basic one, and this is something where definitely when I read it I'm not immediately like, I want to pick it up. But if there is a book that has like a plot that sounds kind of interesting but not like super special, but then there's this buzzword, then I'm immediately in. Like I'm taking it. And that is female romance. Now in general, there is definitely a few books where I am more willing to pick them up if I know they have romance in them, but female romance? Yes, please. Like really, there have been quite a lot of books where I kind of read through these synopses and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, this sounds like something that has been done before, or this just sounds like something that just seems kind of mediocre or just a little bit boring. And then I kind of checked if there was a female romance in it, and if it wasn't, I clicked away, and if there was, then I picked it up. My next buzzword is pirates, and this is definitely something that has to be combined with another buzzword. Best case scenario is queer ladies. Best recommendation for this is The Abyss Surrounds Us. Just read it recently. Fell in fucking love. It's amazing. But in general, I do have to say, like, I'm kind of attracted to pirate stories, but I do enjoy if there's at least a little bit of a romance in it. I really just enjoy, even if it's not female, I really enjoy just stories where there's like someone coming on the ship as a prisoner, and then they end up meeting the captain or someone from the crew and realizing that they are not what they seem to be. Oh, that's my favorite. Yes, please. Another good example for that one, if we're not talking about queer ladies, is Blue Tide by Jenna Lynn Duncan. Now, this book kind of went downhill at some point, but the kind of piratey storyline and the romantic storyline, yes, please, so good. The next buzzword I have is sexual fluidity, and I do have to say, while this is something that I in general kind of feel drawn to, it is definitely something where I am more drawn to it when it's a female main character. Sexual fluidity is a buzzword that I have because it's relatable, and so I'm obviously looking for a female character so that it's more relatable, but in general it's definitely something that I feel very drawn to. One of my recommendations for that would be Dress Codes for Small Towns. This is basically something that the book itself kind of advertises. But I also think Ramona Blue is really great for this. I think that because there was a little bit of controversy around this, because the synopsis kind of sucked in the beginning, it kind of wasn't as visible that it is a lot about sexual fluidity and that this character is kind of trying to figure out what is going on. But if someone is looking for a book that is kind of including sexual fluidity, I would definitely recommend this one. Now my next buzzword is kind of stupid, but I had to include it because it is definitely something that gets me every time, and that is the sentence, for fans of Christina Shore. The thing is, this is kind of the only sentence that really applies. Obviously Victoria Schwab is my favorite author, but if I read For Fans of Victoria Schwab, I'm still kind of checking out what the book is about. If I read For Fans of Christine Shore, it's basically immediately on my wish list. Now, I don't really have a recommendation for this because I didn't like the one book that was kind of said to be like that, which was The Winter's Curse. It was fine. I just felt I wanted it a little bit more, but I do see the comparison. And then the other book, Grave Mercy, which is kind of constantly pitched to me as, you know, if you like Christina Shaw, you will like this, is something that I'm currently reading while filming this, so I can't say anything about it yet, but definitely feel drawn to anything where people say this reminds them of Christina Shaw. Give it to me. My next buzzword is Peter Pan retellings, but especially if it focuses on hook. My best example for this is obviously Never Never by Brianna Schramm. I mean, this is one of my favorite books of all time. I love that so much. I also definitely think that Peter Darling is a good retelling if you're looking for a queer retelling. That one wasn't my favorite, but I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a queer retelling of Peter Pan. But there's so many more still on my TBR. I need to start working on that. Same goes for mermaids. I still kind of hang on to it, but it's definitely become less of a buzzword. But it's just something that in the beginning, when I started reading more, I was like constantly looking for mermaid books, but then I rarely ever actually bought any of them and picked them up. This definitely is something that also gets 1000% more interesting if it says queer. But yeah, in general, I do still feel drawn to mermaids. Also, a lot of the mermaid books have really great covers, so that's definitely a factor. I felt weird not including it, but it's not a big buzzword anymore as it was like a couple of years ago. Next, we have video games, and actually I feel like there is not that many out there, at least not so many that get like hype. But whenever I do find one, I almost immediately put it on my wish list, to be quite honest. Obviously, one of my favorites would have to be Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I do really enjoy when it's like virtual reality and it is kind of combined with a dystopian aspect. One of my more recent favorites would obviously have to be Warcross by Mary Lou. I really think that this was even better as far as the video game representation was, because it's just a little bit more about the game itself, I guess. I don't really know. I mean, Ready Player One, what intrigued me more about that one was the dystopian aspect, whereas in Warcross, it was definitely a lot about the gaming and the kind of tournament that was in there. Next, we have female friendship. It's not all about the queer ladies, okay? It's also good if it's female friendship. My favorite example for this, Forever and Ever, will be Run by Cody Kaplinger. This also actually has a queer main character. One of the girls is bisexual, but this is such a beautiful book about female friendship. More people need to read this. I cannot stop saying that. Like, guys, read this fucking book. Another one that would not really be recommended in general in that category, but is something that I personally think you would enjoy if you have the same buzzword, female friendship, is the Geek Girl series by Holly Smale. Now, I'm holding up the 5th book because that personally is kind of my favorite portrayal, but in every single book there is a really great female friendship, and there's several great female friendships that I really enjoy, and I definitely think this is something that if this is one of your buzzwords, you should definitely read this series. Next is basically everything geeky and nerdy, but I put it in a category conventions because I do really like when, you know, we have this like space as well that is just kind of nerdy and geeky. One of my favorite examples would have to be Queens of Geek. This also features queer ladies and female friendship, so yes, this is everything. Another book I absolutely loved for just the general fandom representation, I guess, was Geekarella by Ashley Poston, and this also has a really great female friendship. And finally, the last buzzword that I want to talk about today is dancing. Now, this is another buzzword I definitely have not read enough books of yet. I do have a couple on my TBR, still have more on my wish list, but it's definitely something that I also constantly feel drawn to. I just don't think that there is that many, so I don't really find them a lot. One that I would definitely recommend, even if you're not like super into dance, but if you just kind of find it interesting, and if you just kind of find the industry interesting, like you don't have to know anything about ballet itself, but you know, for example, if you kind of liked the basic aspect in Black Swan, then I definitely think you would enjoy First Position by Melissa Braden. And this also has, guess what? Queer ladies. Ha! This was so great. I loved reading that book so much. Finding a book with like actual ballet dancers in it that focuses a little bit on the dance, but also on the industry, but then also focuses on a queer romance. That is just too much for me. That book was so good. It was almost 5 stars. It's fucked up the ending a little bit. That was a little bit too dramatic for me. But in general, really, really good book and just highly recommend it if you're looking for a dance book with queer ladies. There's also some female friendship in it, but it's not a really big part. Now, these are some of my bookish buzzwords and some of the recommendations for it. There's probably more on these shelves that would fit to these buzzwords, but I just kind of wanted to give you a few examples. And as I said, if you have any recommendations for any of these buzzwords, please leave them in the comments down below and let me know some of your buzzwords, in particular buzzwords where you are looking for recommendations. So either, you know, someone else can maybe comment and help you and give you a recommendation, or maybe I have a great recommendation. I probably don't have a recommendation because I'm really basic. I just read the basic stuff. So you will probably have already read it, but you know, maybe we can help each other in the comments. So if you're writing a comment with your buzzword in it, just look through the comments and see if maybe you can help someone else out. That would be really nice. If we could all come out of this with one recommendation that we haven't yet heard of for one of our buzzwords, I would be a very, very happy person. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you soon. Bye!